Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Jenna and this is Apple Dolly Creations. When you hop on, say hi. We'll pull myself up over here. So hopefully we can okay, there I go. So okay, there we go. Okay, so we are doing a cow dish towel for Donna, and I told her I would go live and do this, but I think at the moment she's also live. So she'll catch this probably on replay. And if you see this on replay, please put hashtag replay so I can thank you. Hi, Julie. Hi, Brenda. Let me move my phone up here so I can maybe see. Oh, thank you, Julie, for sprinkling. I appreciate that. So we are doing a cow dish towel. So my applique pattern has two different cows, and this is the one that Donna chose. And I'm going to flip you around so you can see. I already have it cut out. Okay. So this is what we're doing. This is the cow. So I already have it all cut out. We're doing it on this buffalo check fabric. And then we're putting it on, hi Jody, one of these dish towels. So that is what we're doing tonight. I had something totally different planned, but this is better because we, hi Dawn. Thank you, Jody. I appreciate it. So we'll get into why I changed it up. So I already have the nose and the nostrils glued down, and I'm using this. Now, somebody asked me why I don't do the double-sided fusible, because when you're using thinner fabrics, sometimes that even the lightweight stuff, the fusible, will make your applique stiff. That's why I prefer this. Now, you can get a sewable glue. Now, you have to iron it too, just like you do this to dry it. My experience with, first off, it's like 4 times more expensive than this. But it has a tiny little applicator at the top. Hi, Teresa. It's a liquid glue. But my experience with that is my tip on both bottles that I've tried to use dried up. And I couldn't get that little tiny applicator to open up. Hi, Donna. I thought you were live. So that's why I always stick with this. First off, it's really reasonable. And it does the same thing. Now, you can use a Elmer's glue. You just have to watch when you're putting it on your fabrics that you get a tiny, tiny dot. You don't want to put like this. We just run over the fabric. If you're using the Elmer's glue, you want to just use tiny, tiny little dots. And then you want to iron that also to dry it. Because if you don't dry any of these glues, even the sewable glue that you can buy, your thread is going to get gummed up and you're going to break thread. And then, hi Colette, thank you for sprinkling. So you're going to have a mess. This is what I always go back to. As long as it says washable, doesn't matter that brand, but as long as it says washable, you're good to go. So that's what I'm using. So I already have the nostrils and glued onto the nose. And I also have these sunflower centers glued onto the fabric. And it's already glued onto the check here. Now I'm using 1/8 inch ribbon as my stems. It's up under here, and I have glued it down. and it's glued underneath of the flowers, but this end of the stem, I'm just leaving loose. So this is lots of pieces. So when you're doing lots of pieces, you need a foundation fabric that you can put everything on. So this is just a piece of muslin that I had, and I did put a lightweight fusible on the back just to give it some stability. But the double-sided lightweight fusible sometimes will make your fabric stiff. Now, I have never had a problem with this making my fabric stiff. It does give your fabric body, but not stiffness. So, because this is lots of pieces. I mean, each one of these is a different piece on here. So that's why I'm using a foundation fabric to put everything on. Now, this doesn't matter what your fabric is, because as you see, it's not, you don't see any muslin showing here at all. So, did I miss anybody yet? Hi, Sharon. I did miss Sharon. Welcome. I'm glad you all are here. So I know we've been doing a lot of applique lately, but Donna requested a towel, so I thought I'd do the towel with you. Now, the face and the eyebrows are embroidered on. I don't know if you can see, I've them drawn on really light there, that we're going to embroider this after we get all these pieces sewn on. So all you need is just a little swipe of this and press it down. So those of you who had questions about all the other glues that you can use on fabric, I hope that answered all those questions. So see, this is totally separate. This is separate. Everything is separate. Now you can use this, even though it's purple, on even the sheerest white fabric. You see it goes on purple, but it doesn't come through as purple. So you can use this on really sheer white fabric and you're good to go. So half of that is glued. Now look, nothing is coming off of there. But if I needed to reposition something, I can take it off, reposition it, and put it right back down. And see, it stays. So you can get this anywhere, any stationery supply, Walmart, Amazon, you know, everywhere you can get it. So now that I have everything glued the way I want it, I'm going to move that nose, or the white part of his face down just a hair. Because the snout, the nose has to come up over that end. So you can keep, even after you iron it, and you're like, oh, I didn't want that there, you can still pull this apart and iron it back. Okay, see? I repositioned and everything's still there. So I have some black embroidery floss. Now, when you're doing a lot of applique, keep a baby wipe handy, because once it gets on your fingers, everything sticks to you. So can you see his eyes? Yeah, there you go. You can see them. So hi, Tony. Welcome. Oh, yeah, gingerbread. Yeah, that would be nice, Brenda. Hi, Mel. So I just have the tiniest little knot here, because I don't want to feel the knot through my towel. So I'm going to start on the eyebrow up here, and I'm just doing a back stitch. I am not a hand embroiderer, so those of you that are, if I'm doing this wrong, please let me know, because I want to learn. I did it in 7th grade, but I've forgotten all that. I know a couple of stitches. So I'm pulling it taut but not tight. So this is just one of the 2 patterns, and I have them for sale, and you get both of them. But this is the one Donna liked the most. So I haven't ironed this glue dry yet. Now, if you're doing a whole bunch of these, you can actually just glue them all and go back to it the next day. Your glue will dry on its own, and you can use it that way. But if you sit down, do it, and sew all at one time, you want to dry it with an iron. So you see, I did not tie that off. I just jumped right from the eyebrow, and I'm going right to the eye. And this is just a back and forth. I think it's called a satin stitch. Hi, Joe. Welcome. So we're doing a cow applique towel, dish towel. I do have a book on embroidery with all the stitches. I actually should get it out and read it. It's like buying something and not reading the instructions. You think you have a cow problem? There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people that have cows I used to have cows in my kitchen. Then I went to, hi Barb. Then I went to apples and cows. And then I went to apple cows and something else. So now I just don't have any theme in my kitchen. So I'm just taking my needle, going straight over to the other eye. So now I just have a mishmash of whatever I like is in my kitchen. See, isn't that eye cute? So now when we iron this, that little pucker will go away. Hi, Patty. Welcome. So I'm glad you all are hopped on. A Highland cow. Those are adorable. Have you seen the real miniature Highland cows? Now, if I was going to have a pet, that's what I would have. They're adorable. There's a farm on TikTok that has a miniature Highland cow that follows them everywhere and sleeps in their house. I'm not sure I want a cow sleeping in my house. Now that is something I've never made, was a Highland cow. A pig? I can do, hi Boom, I can do a pig for you. We'll just have a whole farm of animals. I do have a pig. I'll have to dig it out. So my daughter took me for Mother's Day today to lunch and a pedicure. My favorite part of a pedicure is the massage and that they do for your feet and legs, and the chair. Love it. Today, neither one of them agreed with me. I was fine as long as I was in that chair, but the minute we got back out to the car, my fibromyalgia started acting up, and I told Heather, I said, I don't know if we're going to be able to go to lunch. I couldn't move. I came home, and I told Tony, we did go to lunch. I told Tony when I got home, I said, I feel like I've been in a car wreck. So, no more massage chairs. So I made my line so light I can't see it. Or my eyes are being goofy. Hi, Patty. So there. So I'm just going right back to the back. Now when you do a jump stitch like this, and the jump stitch like this is not seen, you do not have to cut those. Because if you cut them, then the embroidery is going to come out because there's no knots between. So I'm just going to go into this stitch and make my knot. Now, is that how you're supposed to do it? I don't know, but that's how, hi Mimi. That's how I do it. So, you know, sometimes there's a right way, there's a wrong way, and then there's our way, right? And I just double knotted that. I want to pull it. And I'm going to knot it one more time. And I'm trying to use tiny little knots so that you can't feel it through. So there's our eyes and our eyebrows. So we're going to lay this back down. See, I kept my ribbon flat all the way across, so you don't feel that either. And we're going to press this out. And my iron timed out. I understand that's a safety feature, but there are times that is such a pain. And I am using blanket stitch tonight because I was asked to show that. See, it doesn't take much heat to dry that glue. Hi, Julie. I don't know if I said hi to you or not, but I did again. But see, now it's all stuck. Well, it will be if I glued that, right? We didn't glue this on. And you don't need much. See, I'm just using a little bit. Now we're going to have to dry that again. Get that centered again. Now I have a tiny little mark on here. And I know the center of my tongue is the middle. So I can get this centered. Now let's iron that glue again. Now if your machine has decorative stitches on it, that is what your blanket stitch looks like. Can you see that? I'll get you up closer. Now, it's not going anywhere. Let me get the machine over here. That is what your blanket stitch looks like. Now you can, if your machine has something that looks like that, that is where you can change the width of your stitch, the length, and you can also shift your needle. I never shift my needle because on my regular stitches, I have a right, left, and a middle stitch. But that's for straight stitches. But see, that is how little, oh, you're blurry. There we go. That's how little I'm making that blanket stitch. And that's what it looks like on your machine, if your machine has decorative stitches. So we're going to start on the inside and work out. So I'm going to do the nostrils first. And I have lint. So I'm placing my needle. I don't want to unthread my needle. right at the tip of that nostril. And I like to turn my hand wheel for the very first stitch, just so I know that I'm getting it right where I want it. Okay. Thanks, Jody. So we're starting out slow because of the turns on small pieces. And I backstitch. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that one of your stitches is off your piece you're appliquing, and the other one is right on the fabric. So you can see that in a moment. So you just have to adjust your needle position to make sure that you're getting that. And we're just following the shape of that nostril right around. So see, even though my hands is moving this fabric, those pieces that my hands are on are not moving. But I could stop the machine and rip those pieces right off and reposition them, even though we've glued it and dried it. So the last time I checked on that washable glue is like $1 something at Walmart for a tube of it. But if you're going to be doing a lot of applique, buy more than one. It seems like there's a lot in one of those and you're just using a tiny bit on the back of your fabric, but you go through one of those pretty quick. So we're right back at the beginning, and I'm going to backstitch. Now this machine, when you're doing decorative stitches and you backstitch, the fabric doesn't move back and forth like a normal backstitch. It just keeps putting the same stitch in the same hole, and it locks it in. So there's a nostril. Hi, Barbara. Julie, I'm going through stuff and getting rid of stuff. Saturday, I'm having an enormous yard sale. Because we're downsizing too, so I have a ton of stuff on Marketplace, furniture and that, and this room is really small compared to my other sewing rooms, so this room is really hard for me to organize. So that's what's making me get rid of stuff too. And since I don't do a whole lot of crafting, I do more sewing anymore. The crafting stuff I'm getting rid of. But I'll do a sale so y'all can have first choice. So any of you that are expecting a package from me, it's going out tomorrow. I'm going to the post office in the afternoon. So I think I can do that a little quicker now. But when you're choosing your thread to go around your pieces, I always like to use a dark color. Just like when, you know, when you're in school and you outlined all your coloring pages, it highlights it. And I like that look. But you definitely can use the same color as your fabric. You'll just have to change your thread and bobbin a lot. But I like to use black when I'm highlighting something on an applique. The black just makes it stand out. Now the tongue, I am not going all the way around it. It's going to be secure by the nose. I'm just going to leave it free. Once I do the face and this, the nose, it's going to be secure. So the tongue is just going to be free. It's glued at the moment, but that will come unglued. So just cut our threads. So there's the nose, or the snout. Nostrils. I'll get it right. See how that, I have it on back stitch, and the fabric's not moving. The needle's just going up and down. Well, so then I just cut it. There we go. That automatic cutter is nice on this machine, but sometimes I press it instead of the forward button. And my brain's not totally in gear like it is tonight. I can't believe that massage chair affected me so bad today when I was getting that pedicure. That's the first time ever. So this was a new salon. I don't know if their chairs were harder. It didn't feel like it was harder than the other place we were going to. And I thought it was really weird. Right before the girl started on my toes, she asked us if we wanted a cocktail. I looked at my daughter and said, "They serve alcohol?" That was a first. Like, no, not this early. We don't want cocktails. I don't drink anyway. I told Heather, I said, she doesn't drink either. I said, we're going to have to call someone to come get us if we drink a cocktail. I could see me calling Tony at work. You need to leave work and come get Heather and I because we're unable to drive. So see how that black is just highlighting all the different colors. So if I'm missing your comments, I'll get to you. I'm trying to stay right on the edge of this fabric. So this applique is a bunch of different pieces. Well, I've never had a massage, but when you get a pedicure done, they have massage chairs that you sit in, and then it has all different settings that you can use. But I love those chairs. That was my favorite part of a pedicure. But never again, I'm not using that chair again. Oh, if you ever get a pedicure, you will go every month for one. It feels so good. All the oils and all the stuff they use on your feet. See how that just like sets it off to me. So I'm going to lift up this tongue. It doesn't really tickle. And we're going to do the face. The hot oils and the hot stones they rub and all the lotions and whatever all that other stuff is. My feet and legs for days feels so good. Hi, Becky. It doesn't tickle at all. They don't do under your feet. The bottoms of your feet. Then they put all this stuff in your water that your feet soak in. I don't know what that is, but it feels really good. My granddaughter's got my daughter and I hooked on getting them. Hi, welcome. We're appliquing a towel on fabric that we're going to put on a dish towel for Donna. When they do your hands, you mean do your nails? I've never had my nails done. It's a waste of money for me to have my nails done because I use my fingers, tips of my fingers too much. I get yelled at from my granddaughters because I don't use my fingers right. You're not supposed to use your fingernails for stuff, I was told. Yeah, manicure. Yeah, my daughter and granddaughters get those, but I don't. First off, I think it's way too much money, but my one granddaughter had her nails done one time. $200. I'm like, I got a better place for $200 to go. Well, they might do your hands. You know, the nerves in my feet spasm a lot with all this mess I got going on. And a pedicure just makes it a couple days with no nerve spasms, which is so nice. But I've never been offered alcohol before. But they do things a little different here in Georgia. Yeah, you could try. Just warm up some lotion or oil and to see how I'm turning all of this. Not one of these pieces is falling off. Oh, thanks, Dawn. I hope you like it. This will go out in tomorrow's mail. Oh, that's nice. A sewing table? That's really nice. That's great. So what are you sewing, Becky? What's your first project? You either like sewing or you don't. There's no, well, I'm going to mess around with this and I'm going to, no, you either like it or you don't. Now, I got my daughter, I'm back stitching right there, a sewing machine one year for Christmas. She don't like sewing. She thought she would, but she doesn't. So that's why I always tell everybody, don't buy your first sewing machine a really expensive one, because if you don't like sewing, then you've got all that money invested in a machine. You don't know yet? So those of you who want a very simple doll pattern, if you go on my Telegram and scroll back a little bit, there's a very, very simple, very easy, simple doll pattern there. I think I've shared it a couple of times. I'm not sure how many patterns are on my Telegram now. Okay, we've done the whole diameter of the face. So let's do the ears and then the white of his face. Brother, yeah, that's what I like. Although I have a really old Singer that I love, but it only does a straight stitch. But my embroidery machines are all, they're brothers. Now, I've seen some really bad reviews on the new Singers because the internal workings are all plastic and shops are refusing to work on them. So like everything else, I guess they're disposable now. Yeah, I like brother machines. I've never had a problem with a brother. So now I'm wondering why I'm seeing all the Singers for about $200. Especially the one that I paid $700 for is now like $200. Now I'm wondering if that's why, because it's got such a bad reputation. A tomato pincushion. Oh, we've made quite a few pincushions. I have another pincushion coming up. But we've made quite a few pincushions. They're not on here anymore, but they should be over on YouTube. We've made a little sheep pincushion. How many other ones have we made? Oh, you have commercial machine? I know nothing's made good. Everything's disposable, Becky. You pay all that money and then you throw it away and you go buy it again. And Singer always had a really good reputation. My treadle machine is a Singer. Hey, Kim. What do you think of your song? My son had a song written for my daughter-in-law for Mother's Day about their whole history. It made me cry when he sent it to me this morning. Oh, a cow pincushion. Thank you. So this is applique, and everybody hears the word applique, and they're like, oh, I can't do that. If you are a beginner sewer, you can do this. And if you don't sew, you can do this, because you can do the blanket stitch by hand. So applique used to be only done by hand. So this is a beginner project. You can do a tiny little zigzag. We've done that. If you have the blanket stitch on your machine, and if you have a newer machine, you have the blanket stitch on it. And I'll show you what that looks like, because it doesn't look like a blanket stitch that you're used to seeing. But one nice thing to do is take a light color fabric and a dark thread and go through all of your decorative stitches and put it on that fabric. That way you see exactly what it's going to look like. Because on the machine, you think, what does that look like? What's that going to look like on my fabric? You can always refer back to your piece of fabric and use that as a sample. And it's also a good way to get the feel of your machine. So if I was doing a whole bunch of these, I would write down what my settings are, my stitch length and everything, so that they all would be the same. Because you can change your stitch length, the width of your stitch, Now that is all sewn down. The tongue is loose and the flower stems are loose. But that is all sewn down. Now we're going to put a bow in her hair. So this is what the blanket stitch looks like. Right there. Get you closer. There we go. So if you have that, it could be down here, it could be anywhere on your screen. That is how you adjust the width and the length. And then you can shift your needle right to left on this. But that's what it looks like if you want to play around with the width and length of your stitches. But that's the blanket stitch right there. And that's what it looks like. See that? So, looking for my tiny little scissors. And I don't know where I put them. So we're going to use another little pair. So I did not get that right there stitched. So I'm just going to cut it off. And nobody will know. It's just, you will know. But this way, it doesn't fray. We have to do our flowers. Our sunflowers need sewn. Now, the center of these is a washed wool. So this is, it makes it washable. If you have wool and you want, it's called boiled wool. They used to actually boil wool to make it washable. You don't need to do that. You can just take your wool and wash it in hot water in your machine. And it makes it washable. But they used to put it on the stove and actually boil it. I'm going to slow that down because this is really small. So I actually think this was a sports coat that I washed. So you put it in the washer, hot water, put it in the dryer, hot, and then it makes it washable because it shrinks it. It takes all of that. Hi, Ronnie. I love how you put something to everybody's name. Genuine Gina. Thank you for sprinkling. I love how you do that. So if you follow Ronnie, she's going to give you a name that starts with your first letter of your name. So this is really slow, but I don't want to go around this center fast. So I want to make sure that I get it all sewn down. And if you keep your thread tails behind your needle, they won't get knotted up. Because if they were hanging in the front, your presser foot could pull it down, or your feed dogs could pull it down into your fabric, and it will make a knot. So Becky, if you have any questions about your machine, send me a message, and I'll try and help you. So let's do around the flower. So I took my 2 cones of thread back to Hobby Lobby. They wouldn't take them back because I didn't have the plastic that was on the outside of the cone. It didn't matter that the thread is defective. They wouldn't take it back. So, I have 2 defective cones of thread. You can do it, Ronnie. If you follow me, I do very easy sewing projects on here because I don't want to discourage any of you. So everything I do is beginner friendly. So if I do something complicated, it's going to be a special video, or I'm going to do it on my own and not do a video. Because I never want any of you to think that you can't do something. I never want to discourage anybody. So the best thing to do is get a piece of fabric, sit down at your machine, and just start getting the feel of your machine first. Yeah, sewing is getting really popular again. And that's good. Everything old is new again. Well, if first you don't succeed, try again. You'll get it. You have to get used to the speed of your machine too. Because you can go rabbit or you can go snail pace. And it depends on what you're doing. So if you're doing a lot of turns like this, you want to go slower. The only time I take my machine at its fastest speed is when I'm doing free motion embroidery. Now that is very easy to do. You just have to learn how to drop your feed dogs on your machine. And those things underneath are there that move, that's your feed dogs. That helps push your fabric underneath your presser foot. I don't want these tails to get mixed up with that flower. So a few videos back, I have a short little video that shows the proper way of doing a bobbin. So if you need that, let me know if you can't find it. It's on YouTube. Because you know they don't let you keep anything on here anymore. I was just thinking I ran out of bobbin. An alien. Well, the very first doll I made, I was about 10 years old, and I hand sewed the whole entire thing. I have it in my china closet. I hand sewed the whole entire thing. The fabric I used was one of my brother's t-shirts, and I'm not sure what I made her dress out of, and I hand drew her face, which is almost now disappeared, with a pencil. But she doesn't really look that great either. But it was the first doll I ever made. And I think I stuffed it with cotton balls because she's kind of flat. So I'm not sure if my brother ever missed his t-shirt, but I cut it up and made a doll. I'm pretty sure I stuffed it with cotton balls. So if you check Marketplace, you can get a lot of sewing supplies on there. I sent, for some reason, one day I was getting a bunch of Ohio Marketplace ads. So I sent it to Jody. Some lady had a ton of fabric. So our flowers are done. The stems are loose. The tongue is loose. And we're going to put it on a dish towel. Now these flour sack towels, I get them at Walmart. But I have found oh, thank you, Boom. If you ever have a question, below every one of my posts is my WhatsApp. Just send me a message. Now this bunch I bought. Now you watch your packages when you get them. They're $10. One packet I got, I wasn't paying attention. There was 5 of these. The other pack I bought, well, there was 8 of them. This pack I bought, there was 8 of them, but they're a thicker towel than the other ones. So if you buy these, and you can make so many things besides using them as dish towels. I mean, they grunge really, really nice, but they're really wrinkled. You, if you're going to use them for something like this, you have to iron them. And you have to use, the other ones I used, I had to use a lot of steam to get the wrinkles out. So when I pressed this, I pressed a seam in the middle. And then I have a small little mark. Now see the back of this? How neat that looks? I mean, I still got tail threads, but I'm not worried about the back. But that blanket stitch. See how nice that looks? And I made a tiny little mark on here so I can get the centers matched up. Yeah, I have a bunch of people. I'll just do a video for whatever you need done. Because I love the fact that everybody is starting to sew again. Because it's something that I've done, as Jody says, 601 years. But I learned just the basics of my machine in home ec. So I'm just pinning this on this towel. And I'm doing a blanket stitch all the way around the edge of this also. So you don't want to sew over your pins. Every time I do, I break a needle. So I'm putting all my pins further in just because I don't want this to move. Yes, Boom. What are you making? We are interested. It didn't go well, Ronnie? Well, on my Telegram, I have a very, very basic, easy doll pattern, which the head is attached to the body. Now, somewhere, welding mechanics and auto body. Now you're doing home and sewing. That's funny. Hi, Kay. Now you can make these as fancy as you want. You could go around the whole edge and do just a trim of your fabric. I like to sew whatever I'm putting on my towel on a piece of fabric and put that on. But you can dress these up a lot, and these dye really, really well. So I have taken acrylic paint that we use for crafts and mixed it with water and made a real light color of that paint color. And I have dyed my towels, and your towel does not get stiff like if you painted it, how it gets stiff. Mixing it with water, and you have to use like a bottled water, not from the tap, because if you keep it, you can keep that in a refrigerator, but if you use tap water, it molds. So does not tell us something. But if you use, I always use bottled water, and you can keep whatever leftover in your fridge in a jar. But I have washed my towels after I did that paint color on here, and it did not wash out. So, but you can use Ritz dye. But, you know, I have made paint dye for years, but it did not wash out of my towel, which I was shocked because I was just testing it. So let's go. I'm going about 1/8 inch in, and I'm going to do the same stitch and the same little stitch. Hi, Debbie. Oh, you did cooking? Well, my home ec teacher and I did not get along. Her name was Mrs. Klein. I don't know why we didn't get along. We didn't like each other, but I did learn an awful lot from her. "22 years. Wow. Now you're supposed to, which I push the envelope, every 8 to 12 hours of sewing, change your needle. I push that envelope because I like Schmetz needles, and they're a little pricey. So when I notice that my needle is not going through my fabric very well, that's when I change a needle, or when it breaks. When your needle needs changed, it'll break too. But I push that envelope. But the rule of thumb is every 8 to 12 hours of sewing. For me, that would be, I'd change a needle a day. Or every other day. I'd have to tell Tony, put sewing needles in the budget if I changed it every 8 to 12 hours. Now, I have a Treadle sewing machine. I used to sew on it all the time. Even though I had electric ones, I loved that machine. But it broke a belt, and I've never ordered another one, which I need to, because you can still buy parts for those. I shared with somebody the company, But yeah, you can still buy parts for those treadle sewing machines. Hobby Lobby. I also get them from online. When I go to buy needles, I always go online and check prices, see where the cheapest is, and that's where I buy them. But I like the brand Schmetz. It's a German needle, but they seem to stay sharp longer. Yeah, I'm still using the blanket stitch. So this whole thing is done with a blanket stitch. Now if you're using a fabric that has a sheen to it or is a little slick, you can glue it down too. But this is actually part of a curtain that I cut and hemmed for my mom. Sewing Parts Online is a good place to look for sewing supplies. And Wawak, W-A-W-A-K, is another place that I buy sewing supplies from. Amazon. Now, Sewing Parts Online, if you buy fabric, and their fabric is a really good quality fabric, when they're filling orders, they will pick an order and give a really nice gift out. The other day, I was watching one of their videos. They were filling orders, and they gave an Oslo iron away, which is like over $100 iron. They gave it to the person, and all she did was bought 2 yards of fabric. So, you know, that's a nice thing that they do. Yes, Sewing Parts Online also has a lot of nice videos. Yeah. So it's Sewing Parts Online, Wawak, Amazon. So every once in a while, if you're sewing like around this fabric, like I'm doing a lot of, every once in a while I just pull down the back of it to make sure that it's still sewing and I haven't run out of bobbin. Because I have done a ton of sewing, and then when I went to turn my fabric, none of it was sewn down because I ran out of a bobbin. That's like the worst thing. It's like, oh, why did you do that to me? Or I get like an inch from the finish and I have to stop and put another bobbin in. You get your needles from Amazon? The Amazon has a lot of private sellers on there. Now, someone told me that they go to Temu for a lot of their sewing supplies. I have never bought needles from Temu because they do sell name brand. A lot of times you don't know what brand you're getting because they don't advertise that. Hi, Michelle. We appliqued a cow onto this red buffalo check fabric for Donna, and now we're sewing it on a towel, a dish towel. So I do sell my patterns, and I do sell the finished product. Somebody asked me that the other day. I've been working on a website for I can't tell you how many months. I need to get it finished. So we're almost back at the beginning. I'm not very knowledgeable when it comes to technology. That's why I have a husband and children. That's what they're for. But that website has just gotten me so confused. So I walked away from it. So I'm going back to it. Maybe now that I'm not working, I'll have patience for it. So we're right back at the beginning. So there we go. There's your towel, Donna. So I'll just press this all out. Hi, Paula. Yes, Donna. I have 7 different machines, and they all take 7 different needles. So I have those cheap pencil cases, one for every one of my machines. So this one is for the embroidery machine, and everything, needles, everything, the feet, everything, because they take different size bobbins, and bobbins do come in sizes. So I keep everything in one of these for every machine. Yeah, you think that stuff would be universal, but it's not. Oh, I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. So, just some pieces of fabric and a whole bunch of pieces that we sewed together, because everything on there is a different piece. But her tongue is loose, so her tongue moves. And the flower stems on this side are loose, and they're loose between the cow and the flower too. They're not sewn down. But if you sew, this is the best little gadget. This is for bingo chips, but look at the needles. Right? So, yeah, if you're having a problem with your thread breaking, first off, make sure that your thread is through all the guides, all the thread guides, because, whoops, sorry. So it goes from your spool to the first guide and you all the way around. Make sure that, because every once in a while, this machine, the thread will jump this one guide back here. So make sure that your thread hasn't jumped the guide. You might have a really dull needle. Your bobbin might be wound wrong, or you might have the wrong size bobbin, because if they come, the depth, some of them are not this deep and some of them are not this wide. And if it's just a hair difference, it's not going to work in the machine. So those are things that I check first when my thread keeps breaking. Paula, I'm glad you hopped on. But if you sew, pick up one of these magnetic bingo chip things, because they are great for needles. And this one is ancient. I had this one I had in my store. So, yeah, see, it's coming apart. But this thing has been fantastic. And it went through the fire of my store and it still works. Oh, you're welcome. Now, if your machine comes with a plastic bobbin, it's supposed to have a plastic bobbin, don't put a metal one in it, and vice versa. If you're supposed to have metal, don't put plastic, because it will mess up your bobbin mechanism down in there. Yeah, you can look up the brand of your machine and the name of it and see if, oh, you do? Yeah. See what kind of bobbin that your machine requires. Because if you have the wrong size, you're going to have issues. So I have a little tiny bow. So let's make a tiny bow. Somebody on here said they have a problem making tiny bows. Now this is 1/8 inch. This is organy. I think it's 1/8 inch. So this is all I do is I make a loop and I make another loop. I call this the preschool bow because when my 2 granddaughters were going to preschool, they came home so excited to teach me how to make a bow. So I just make 2 loops, fold one over the other, and pull it through. Yeah, they taught me how to tie my shoe, like I didn't already know. And my fingers are hurting, so you can make it bigger and then pull the loops and make it smaller. But this is organdy, so I want to show you something. If you want to use a ribbon that on something that's going to be laundered, how to keep it from fraying. So you can make it bigger and then just pull your tails and make it as small as you want. So let's clip this. Now, this is organdy. This is going to fray. Just take a lighter and just go right over the edge and it will seal. You just have to touch it. And now those edges will not fray. And I have a button. And I'm going to put that right on the top of her head. Ronnie, just go back to any of my videos or go to my YouTube and everything I make on here is simple. If you are comfortable using your machine, and you don't have to sew very long before you're comfortable with how your machine works. All the things I do on here are easy sew. So if I do something complicated, I tell you, now this is hard. But this, once you get used to your machine, you can make that. You can do this as a beginner. But the hardest thing is getting comfortable with your machine. Because it will talk back to you just like a child and yell at it, because I yell at mine. Yes. Well, when I was putting this together, laying it out after I cut all the different pieces out, I thought that needs something on its head. So I thought a bow and a button. So we're going to put that right on the top of her head. So I am taking my needle through the loop on the thread before that's going to lock it in. And then I'm going to take my needle through the back loop of this bow. and stitch it on before I put the button on. You have a lead foot? So your machine has a foot pedal? So as you sew, you will find out that your foot pedal will move. It'll get away from you. If you get that shelf liner, the ribbed, I don't know if it's plastic or what it's made out of, and put that underneath of your presser or your foot pedal won't move. And it'll move even on carpet. Because I thought carpeting, it would just stay put. No, it'll move on you. So if you have a foot pedal, get that shelf liner and put a piece of it underneath of your foot pedal. Because my old machine has a foot pedal. Yep. Full throttle, huh? Well, the only time I go as fast as my machines will take me is free motion embroidery. And we're going to do more of that because I've been asked about that. And it's not hard. It really is not hard. We did a little bit of it on the last dish towel I did. I think we did grass under a chicken. So we're just hand stitching this on. There you go. Let's straighten our bow up. There. I get impatient too. I don't like projects like I am making a quilted throw for everybody in my family for Christmas. And I don't like projects that take me a long time. So this is really trying my patience. Thank you. So, I figure now I'm not working. This is the best time to get those things done. Everyone's getting something handmade for Christmas, whether they want it or not. Grandchildren and all. Yeah, you just have to, just like the gas pedal on your car, you just got to get used to it. You just got to get used to it. So there you go. There's the dish towel. Thank you all. I'm glad you like it. You can't do it, Dorothy? Welcome. I didn't see you. You snuck in here. I did a little bit of it on the last, I think it's a chicken dish towel I did. You have to be able to figure out how to drop your feed dogs. But, yeah, I'll do a little bit more of that. So I'm going to press this all out and get it ready to ship. Thank you. I appreciate that, Ronnie. Okay, Dorothy, we'll do a video on that. Oh, that's nice. That's nice, Donna. I appreciate you all hopping on and watching with me. God bless all of you. I hope you have a great night. And I'm glad you like it. So I'll probably be hopping on. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that. sometime tomorrow, because I'm still working on this Sunbonnet Sue and Sam quilt. I got all the squares done. I got to lay them out now to figure out what order I'm putting them in. So when I do that, I will hop on and you guys can watch. And maybe give me some pointers. Oh, you're welcome, Donna. It was my pleasure. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful night. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Brenda. Thank you. God bless.